So that was a good scientific meeting, and I thought it went incredibly well.
Certainly, and I think there were some really good highlights in the programme that we've been able to showcase. I particularly like the continuing work on the microbiome, not only with Linda's state-of-the-art lecture, but then some of the newer research abstracts that I think will be really entertaining for people to look at and stimulate some alternative ways of thinking about common generation of lower urinary tract symptoms. What was for you one of the major highlights?
I like the state of the art, and I like Linda's state of the art. But the first state of the art lecture I thought was interesting, looking at it was machine learning, it's artificial intelligence, predicting. I think it was
that's right.
Prognostic vortex.
Yeah, interesting terminology. It'd be intriguing to see what Eric makes of that and how the data are being used to prognosticate for birth injury and for incontinence and prolapse. I think you're right.
The other thing I thought was good is the development of neuromodulation, particularly the peripheral.
Oh,
so,
right, yes.
I've done a fair amount of percutaneous stimulation with a needle, but done weekly with an acupuncture needle. But this idea of implanting something, so you don't have to put a needle in and bring them back weekly. Right. I think that's quite an advance.
And then do they have an external stimulator that connects to the implanted piece?
I think it just sets something over the stimulator. And
I noticed that not only were there abstracts about that, but there are a couple of videos as well, so it'll be quite instructional, won't it?
Yeah, they're very good. I mean, I looked at all the videos, and I thought they're particularly, there's two different ways with two different techniques.
Yeah. Okay. So people can compare and contrast.
Take your pick.
Yeah, and the other stuff I quite liked was the evolving work on the metabolic syndrome and its link with arterial stiffness, with lower urinary tract symptoms, with nocturia, and particularly then the idea around all-cause mortality and nocturia and retention. In the geriatric world, the idea of a final common pathway for a lot of the syndromes we see in late life, that was quite nice to see coming together in a coherent story. Surgically, what did you find was the most interesting?
Well, there's certainly a very good paper on robotic surgery. Good to see that. There's some very good videos of surgery, as you'd expect.
Yep.
And I think that's interesting to those who are doing those specific parts of surgery. Not that I do all of them, but it's nice to have it on display. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in the program, I don't think.
Yep. And there are a couple of things I noticed about methods of working on the outflow tract in the face of underactive bladder or impaired contraction. So that'll be interesting to see how that's received by the audience.
Well, even there's a very good paper on looking at TURP in men who have underactive bladders, because the general clinical view would be, well, if they can't generate much of a contraction or any of a contraction, they're deemed not to be suitable for surgery, so they end up self-catheterizing. But the results from reducing the outflow resistance, very good actually, more than 50%.
Right. That kind of reinforces what the urologist used to say, wasn't it? I can only deobstruct, therefore, but why should I not try it?
Yeah, and I think that's right. It was just good to see some science around that.
Good, excellent, good.